In 2000, I took a job working as a home health occupational therapist. So my job was eventually I was covering 3 counties, maybe 4. And I would go to the patient's home to do their evaluation. Often they'd be coming home from the hospital or a rehab center. And as the OT, I would evaluate them, assess what their needs were, looking at home safety and any safety hazards and things that they needed to make it safer for them to be in their home where they were living. I had some fun adventures in this journey. A short story is there was someone I was seeing. Luckily, they only lived maybe 15 minutes from us. And I locked my keys in the car at his house. And luckily, Don worked from home. I called him and he came out to help me get into the car. I did this again. My patient joked with me, maybe you should just leave a key here at my house. Another weird adventure I had. I was driving 2 counties south, kind of a rural area outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, Anson County. And I think I had turned off the highway and I heard this awful noise coming from my tires. And I think I might have made it to the patient's house. And this was in a very low income area and a place where I might otherwise feel uncomfortable. Yet as the home health therapist, I was always welcomed where I went. And it turned out somehow I had rolled over a piece of metal.
Wire, like a wire.
Like a wire, a very stiff
Cable.
one. And it had gotten wrapped in the wheel of the tire. And I was fortunate that, it was an elderly person I was going to see, and their son happened to be there. And he helped me get it untangled. I think he pretty much took care of it for me. And I was so grateful because had he not done that, I would have been calling AAA or getting the car towed to get it fixed.
Yeah.
And it would have taken a big chunk of my day and my time. And instead, he took care of it for me. And then I was on my way to the next person.
This is Don.
And this is Gina.
With Focused Healthy Family. And this is podcast number 105. And today we're doing a little something different. We're asking the OT, and we're going to be talking about bringing home mom. So before we get to that, though, we want to have a break for our sponsor.
Our sponsor is Q Sciences. I've been a representative for Q Sciences for over a year. I found this company through a friend and did some research and reading about these products. And I really liked what I found when I learned about them, the research and time that they've put into the quality of these products to be better absorbed into the body. Things like the vitamin D spray. Our youngest was on a capsule vitamin D, and yet vitamin D levels remained the same with follow-up checkups. And with the spray, it increased.
Pretty strong.
Almost double.
Yeah.
And we're talking her levels were maybe 20, and I want to say they went up to 47 or something around that range. And the sleep spray is another great one. It's got melatonin, 5-HTP, and I believe another herbal supplement in there. And because it's a spray, you spray it on your tongue, it gets absorbed more quickly into your body to be more effective to help you in the moment. We're using the B12 spray. We've used the vitamin C spray. They have a Q Max product, which is a multivitamin.
And they also have the CBD, different, a variety of different.
It's full spectrum hemp oils. Yes. They even have a THC-free version. It comes in different flavors. There is a mushroom.
Oh, yeah.
Armor. It's called Q Armor. It's a powder and I get the chai flavor, put it in my chai tea for a double chai drink.
So instead of, as they say, flushing your supplements down, well, the toilet or the drain, you want to get something like this that's fully absorbed. It's like flushing money down the toilet too, if you're not using a supplement that absorbs well and does well for your body. So that's what Q Science is really about. It's a good, well absorbed, high nutrient product.
They have multiple products. They have child specific products. They now also have some facial cream products. I've been using a night cream to minimize the effects of sunlight and stress and aging on my skin. And they have a hemp lotion. That's also a wonderful product that we've tried. So check us out, learn more. You can find the link at our website,
www.focusedhealthyfamily.com. You can also go to focusedhealthyfamily.com/Q Sciences, the letter Q and Sciences.
with an S at the end.
With the S at the end, yes. And we're back, and I'm interviewing an OT here. I want to introduce you to Gina Grothoff, the occupational therapist who now works with Select Rehab. And we want to talk about what it's like what she sees when it's time to bring mom home, how to assess the home and kind of tell them what they need to do to get prepared for mom coming home, but also when she's there, what they have to do. So welcome, Gina.
It's so good to be here.
It's kind of interesting interviewing my own wife here, but
So my thought with this is you think about bringing your mom, a loved one, to your house for a visit, or maybe to move home, whether it's your house, their house, somewhere. And so I was just going to take us through from the outside of the house.
yeah, so let's
Things to
start with that.
consider.
So you're pulling up to the house. You already start noticing things, I would imagine.
And I've done this before. Between working in home health care and also I used to do visits when I worked at a facility. Before the person would go home, we used to go out and do an assessment with them there with us and take them through the difficulties of getting into the house and navigating it and places that they needed to go, like their bathroom, their kitchen, their bedroom, and practicing through those things. So the very first thing is the outside. Is the ground level? Is there a paved path to get to the door that you enter, or is it gravel? What are the different entrances to the house? Because sometimes you can't get in safely through the front entrance, but maybe through the garage, it's level or flat, or maybe only one step versus multiple to get inside.
Well, and I would imagine you see if they need a ramp and things like that too.
Yeah. And the width of the doorway.
Oh, yeah.
Older houses can have more of a challenge.
To get a wheelchair in or
and depending on the width of the wheelchair, wheelchairs come in different sizes.
Is lighting played into it at all? Lighting or yeah.
I mean, if the person is entering and exiting, they're going to be living alone. I mean, certainly lighting is a factor. The other place that lighting really comes in, though, is at nighttime and going to the bathroom.
Okay. So we are now entering the home. We've already evaluated or assessed the outside. We step in. What's the first?
So even before you step in, you have to be able to unlock the door.
There you go.
And so are they going to need to be able to open that door? Can they insert the key and turn it and push the door open while either standing with a device like a walker or a cane or from a wheelchair? And just navigating what that's going to look like. If you don't have a ramp and you have a step, you know that they've learned how to step up a step and having at least one handrail for them to have a place to hold on to. These are questions I routinely ask when I evaluate people short-term rehab, because part of our job is looking at when they go home. What obstacles do they have? What issues need to be dealt with before they get home? And we'll ask, is there a railing? Is it on the right or left? as you're entering the house,
So
thinking
you
about
ask these before still at the facility, before you even go to the house.
when I do my initial evaluation with someone coming into rehab. Yeah, it's part of the initial evaluation, looking at the prior level of function. What were they able to do before? What's the setting, the environment where they live? And then also looking at, is that feasible to go back to that?
Thank you, Gina.
I had someone recently and they lived with family, but they lived upstairs and you would access the second floor from the outside, like a full,
Oh my.
at least 16 steps, maybe more, to get in to where their area was. And then the rest of the family lived on the main level, which is kind of backwards what I typically see.
hmm
And
So what would you recommend to or do you recommend something like that when you see that situation and say the patient has a hard time with stairs? What do you recommend something, or do you just tell them that's an obstacle, or how do you?
I mean, obviously, sometimes people have to change where they live. Sometimes they have to make a modification in the short run. I see a lot more of people who they live with family members, their bedroom's upstairs. They have to temporarily sleep downstairs,
Mhm.
having a space for them downstairs.
Or permanently, I guess, too, if they're not going to get necessarily improve or
And that can be depending on the amount of time since the onset of the illness or injury. Not, if that's uncertain at the time, maybe it's a trial run. Can mom live here at home, or do we need to find a facility or somewhere for her to live? So you got to be able to get inside. You got to be able to navigate entering, exiting, or if you're in a wheelchair and family's going to bring you in, learning how to bump the wheelchair up the step. I recently had a discussion with my mom. Many wheelchairs have what we call anti-tippers on the back
oh, yeah.
so that the chair does not flip completely backwards. So these look like little bars, kind of
They're
like
like a wheelie.
this.
Like
So when you tilt the chair, it's blocking it.
Mhm.
And even though it's a very flat entry into my parents' house, there's a little lip. And she would have a really difficult
Well, they
time.
get caught on the brick, and they don't just ride up over it. They caught on it, so you can't even lift it. It makes it really hard to even lift it up to bring it in.
So those little tippers are often adjustable with the height of how, and they can also be flipped around or removed so that when you need to, you take that obstacle out of the way. So you got to be able to get in the house safely.
Okay,
You've got to
so
be able to have the right space and area to get in. And then once you get in,
yeah, there you go. Next
then
thing.
what? Our particular house we just moved to, there are many steps at the front. At the garage, there's only a couple, but you come in to the laundry area and it's very narrow. So it would be difficult for a wheelchair to get through the narrow space.
Well, and you also don't you look at like rugs and whether they have carpeting or all that?
Yes, the floor surface. The typical recommendation is any throw rugs are a safety hazard. Your foot, your walker could get caught on it, and it's a big tripping hazard.
And
So it's not something sometimes people don't want to hear. They like their throw rugs, they like their carpet, carpet runners especially. I mean, if you have an area rug in a room that takes up pretty much the whole area, that's different than a narrow carpet runner.
because it's more stationary then because it probably has furniture on it. Is that
Yeah, but you still have that lip.
yeah.
And it can almost be more difficult, if you have a change in surface, you have, a threshold marker to secure whatever is there. Um, but without that, you've got flexibility in that carpet that could come up or, get caught easily.
When you have somebody, I would imagine you have people that don't have a very good gait to their walk that doesn't allow they don't lift their feet as well, so
The
they
length
get
of
caught on that.
and the vision can
Yeah.
also be a part of it. Not only how clearly they're seeing, but excuse me, their depth perception. So that's a whole nother set of factors
Yes.
that looking at the person and the struggles they're dealing with. Today, I was just going to talk about the physical barriers
Yeah.
and obstacles and adaptions that can be made. Because there are portable ramps. having a ramp made to enter the home. And you've got to have someone who knows what they're doing, because for every inch of height, you need to have a foot of length. Otherwise, you have a super steep ramp and it's not safe for getting up and down.
All
So
right.
having the space to put that ramp into place.
So we're inside now. What is usually the first area or room that you look at?
I often go to their bedroom first, where they sleep. And typically their bathroom is either off of the bedroom or in close proximity. So we'll either walk in, if they use a walker, and sometimes we've been using a standard walker at the facility, and at home they use a rollator. So let's see your walker and how you do this. We could try it with both walkers. We usually go right to the bed.
When you just real quick to clarify, rollator sounds like something out of a movie. Rollator. What
So
is
you're asking me what?
what is the difference, I guess?
So what I'm referring to as a standard walker, you have walkers that have absolutely no wheels on them.
Okay.
We don't typically use those. We typically use the metal ones. They're silver, that have two front wheels and they're straight legs in the back.
And with a rubber footing on the back.
Yeah, usually you want something to help it glide. But
Oh,
a rollator has four wheels and typically a seat on it as a place to sit and rest, but not to be used as a wheelchair. There is a huge safety hazard in having someone sit down and push them. Now they've made a new kind of walker that converts to a transport chair, so you can more safely have someone sit and push like they would in a wheelchair. But your traditional rollator, my dad calls it his wheelie. It's a four-wheeled walker. They even make a three-wheeled one, but I don't typically like those. We won't get into that. So yes, can you navigate the walker? Your pathway to get there. Is it clear? Is there clutter? Are there things on the ground? Are there children? There would be toys or pets and other obstacles that they could trip on the way. Can they get safely into the bedroom door? Do they need to learn to sidestep through an area? We have to teach people how to turn their walker and walk with inside of it to get through a narrow or tight space. Can they sit on their bed? Some people have these really high beds. It's usually my 5'2" little old ladies, and they have this really tall bed.
to get a ladder.
And they have step stools to get up into it. Well, any kind of step stool is definitely a safety hazard.
Falling.
Almost probably 95% of the people I work with have balance deficits. And so that can be a real safety hazard. So how do they get into the bed? Typically, you want to be able to turn around and sit on the side of the bed in order to scoot back and get your legs up into it. And so is it too high? There are many different modifications you can do. Maybe the bed is too low. We've got someone who's extremely tall and their bed is low to the ground.
Again, another falling scenario, or what's
Yeah,
the danger of that, I guess?
difficulty getting up and
Oh,
out of the bed. Yeah, and if you're going to sit down, someone who's got poor trunk control and strength, they're going to plop down real hard on that bed, which
you
is
use trunk, that meaning I've just for more common terms, but trunk would be like hips and waist,
your body.
your body, whole body. Okay. I just want.
Just ask the questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so can they get into bed and can they get out of the bed? Do they need a bed rail? Do we need to look at some kind of risers? I've had family members make wooden platforms to raise the bed up, done all different types of modifications to it. Again, it needs to be safe and secure. There's lots of different bed rails. There's one that folds and fits halfway. It fits between the mattress and the box spring and comes up on the side. We had one of these for our children as a baby, which was more a safety, not falling out. The kind I'm talking about, they were a little more secure to grip onto, that have a handle to hold to, because that's typically what they can use to pull, to roll themselves, to pull up into sitting and to laying down. So can they sit on the side of the bed? Can they get their legs up into the bed? Can they scoot over? My dad's having particular trouble with this right now. The bed is very soft on top and it is high, and he's not a
Yeah,
tall
no, I've had to
man.
lift him.
And being able to scoot across a soft surface, it can be very difficult. So the topper of the mattress, is it foam? And that can make a difference. And can they lay down? Can they roll over? Then can they sit back up? Can they bring their feet around and off the bed and safely stand up from the bed? So lots to think about. What's around the bed? Is there a nightstand? If they were to fall, what things might they hit their head on? I don't know how many times I hear stories about people falling when they go to get up in the morning or sometimes out of bed, and hitting their head on the corner of a nightstand or something else that's in the area. The other thing is if someone uses a walker, keeping it right by the bedside, it can be even give you a little bit of support as you're getting in and out. Having that with you there, the floor that you're getting up on. Are you getting up with bare feet on a slippery surface? Do you have slippers that have kind of a non-skid bottom, or do you have non-skid socks? What's going on your feet as you're getting up? And in particular, thinking about waking up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Get up, gotta go to the bathroom. A lot of elderly people, difficulty holding their bladder, the muscle has weakened, and might have to get up in the middle of the night more often. And so it's dark. You're disoriented. You wake up. Having a clear pathway to get there, having a soft light for the pathway to get into the bathroom so you can see where you're going. There are motion sensor lights. There are lights that come on when it gets dark outside. Finding something that's not going to be disturbing to person that's sleeping, but can also give enough light, especially on the floor, to be able to see where you're going.
Yeah, we have here, we have like on our steps, we have the ones that come on as you walk to it. Something like that can be helpful.
Those is as you're passing it, it lights up. So it's not quite lighting your way.
Yeah.
It's more lighting you as you're there already.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a,
Yeah.
like one needs to trigger the next one, but they're individual lights, so they're not set up that way.
That's good notice. Okay. That's a part of what you really look at. So let's go into a bathroom and what would you look at there?
So any house that's probably built in before 1990, you got to watch for the doorway. And even other houses, our house is only 20 years old, and the hall bathroom we have is a much narrower doorway than the other bathrooms. How wide is that doorway? Some tricks, sometimes we take the door and the frame off the wall to make more space for either a walker or a wheelchair to fit through. Again, if there's someone's using a walker, you can walk through it sideways. You would literally turn your body sideways, having the walker in front of you, and you move the walker and you step a little bit, and you move the walker and you step a little bit, and you can shuffle into a tight space that way. But then once you're there, can you turn around? Is there enough space to turn around? If you're in a wheelchair, is there enough room to maneuver it? And if you need someone to help you getting from the wheelchair to the toilet, recently, my dad had a caregiver, and my mom told him he didn't know how he was going to get him in the bathroom. And I was like, what? And then I thought about it. It's a very small bathroom. This was a big guy. And to fit him and the wheelchair and then to help my dad in a tight space is an obstacle. So, a tight bathroom can be a challenge. It can also be of a benefit. People might have a counter right next to the commode, which gives them a pushing surface because the next big challenge is getting up and down from a toilet. They make what they call handicap height toilets now. I believe I want to say they're 16 inches, but they're higher than your old-fashioned traditional toilet, which is much lower to the ground. If you have young children, you can't have a real high toilet. I mean, our kids had short little legs anyhow. It took them forever.
Potty training.
Use the toilet. But, to get the height of the person involved, maybe you're bringing mom back home to her house. Dad's 6'5" and mom's 5'2". then you've got two different people. That's why they often have two different bathrooms that they use, or even two different beds, because you have to be able to get up and down. So you have to have the space to get to the toilet, to be able to turn around, and then standing up, you have to take your clothes up and down. So that's where balance is so important, because maybe you can stand still holding on to things, but how do you get your pants down to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Um,
Can you do it like one-handed, I guess,
yeah.
while you're holding on to something?
And again, where is there something to hold on to?
Yeah.
And what are you holding on to? Is it a towel bar? I've had more people say, I'm steadying themselves. Towel bars are just fastened with a short screw. They are not going to hold body weight. They're not designed to, and it can easily
Well, and if
break.
if they're within a ceramic tile, they're usually just cemented into it, which means they can break a lot even easier.
And that's where having someone properly install a grab bar that's designed to hold the weight of a person. And again, keeping in mind someone who is over 300 pounds, you've got to look at special equipment, what we call bariatric equipment that accommodates people sometimes in the 250 range, but definitely over 300 pounds.
When you also, I don't recommend suction suction bars.
Grab bars, yeah, for suction cup grab bars. So I recently had a discussion with another occupational therapist about this, and they make some different kinds now. Maybe for someone who just, like you or me, who just wants to steady themselves stepping into the shower or out of it. But to pull on it, I've just had more experiences where the suction cup is pulled back from the wall. So I just want to caution you about that and being careful. And maybe the person's capable of not pulling really hard on it, but maybe they're in the habit. If they had been in a facility or a hospital and they had a bar to pull up to stand,
Yeah.
it's so much easier to pull to stand versus if you have trouble getting out of a chair, what do? You put your hands back on the chair and you push up. So that takes quite a bit of tricep strength, which is one of our weakest muscles in the back of our arms. It also takes our legs. Grabbing a bar in front of you and pulling, you're using your biceps, a super strong muscle. And so it's often a whole lot easier. I've got patients who take two people to stand them, but put them in front of that bar and they can pull themselves up. So thinking about getting onto the toilet, having the accessibility, being able to turn, and being able to get up and down. So looking at versus are they there by themselves or is someone needing to help them and having the space for that. The other thing is that we often have a rug in our bathroom, often a throw rug.
Mm.
And what's the surface? Tile can be very slick and slippery.
Yeah.
So, what can be done about the surface? What things can be utilized? You can even use a rubber mat like you'd put inside of a tub or shower on the outside if you've got a tile floor to give you a more
Stable
non-skid surface. Again, being careful with anything that's going to be raised up from the floor for the tripping hazard part.
And then what about like preparation for brushing teeth and being at the sink and all? Anything there
Well,
in particular?
definitely, yeah. You have different heights of sinks. If they're in a wheelchair, is it a sink that's open underneath so they can pull up close to it? How tall are they? Being able to get up just to wash their hands. Is there space in there to put the walker while they're standing there at the sink to do what they need to do? Again, are there decorative things or towel bars that they might be prone to holding on to? Swinging cabinet doors, another no-no. You don't want to support yourself on a swinging door. I have a lot of people who they tell me they step in the shower, they hold to the shower door that opens and closes. More steady than something else, but the fact that it moves affects the safety factor of it. And again, it depends on the person, their alertness, their cognition, how alert and aware are they, how oriented in their environment. Do they know what's going on? Do they have any degree of dementia, confusion? And the other big one is, are they on pain medicine, which can make you groggy and drowsy and lose your balance and affect your clear thinking. all these
What's their ability
factors.
to grab and hold too, as far as like toothbrush or
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother avenue. As
all right,
far as
we'll move on.
things set up where they can easily get to them. Sometimes the faucet distance is too far, depending on what kind of faucet is. Is it kind that can just bump on and you could use something if they can't reach it to bump it
Hmm.
on? The temperature. Do you have a temperature control on it? Is it going to come on too hot?
Oh wow.
Could be a burning issue, especially people have diminished sensation in their hands and they might not realize they're getting burned.
Wow. Okay. So
So, and then, I mean, you're in the bathroom. The other big factor is showering. My questions I ask people, do you have a walk-in shower or a tub shower? So do you understand what I mean by those things, Don?
say it again. Walk in.
Shower versus a tub shower.
Oh yeah, well it's just a tub with a shower versus a shower with a low base to it.
And why do you think I asked that question?
Oh, let's see, because then they're gonna have to climb in to get into a bathtub shower.
Right. Usually it's quite a step that you have to get over to get inside. One of the more challenging situations I've encountered are big garden tubs. um, I had a lady who lived in a mobile home, but she had a big garden tub and there was like a seat to be able to sit on when she got in there, but
It's getting
I think there was a step up to it. So here she is with a walker trying to figure out how to get a shower. And the traditional benches and chairs they make for showers and tubs don't necessarily work that well with that kind of setup. So yeah, do you have a shower door?
in a situation like that, just out of curiosity, are you able to get her to a place where she can, I'm thinking of somebody that maybe can't afford to like build a whole new bathtub or or whatever. How do you
I
are you
remember we practiced with her. She had a shower chair and we practiced different heights and different methods of trying to get up and sitting on the side, bumping up the steps, just that's where having the therapist who comes into your home is a huge asset to be able to problem solve, look at the particular situation, look at adaptations that can be made. Several years back, my dad needed some help getting up and down off the toilet. We found kind of a frame that just loosely slid under the toilet with bars. But once he physically needed more help, that was very movable. So for a little bit of steadying help to stand up, but to getting there, if you pulled on it, it
yeah,
wasn't going to stay put. It's going to slide all over the place. So then we had to have a bar mounted on the wall. And when you're looking at mounting bars, you have to consider the person's height. And sometimes having a bar in an angle can be helpful if they're getting up from sitting and then later they're standing.
huh.
There's a lot of things that go into.
And then I'm sure we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg with the other because it's all going to be complex based on each person and what they're going
Right.
through and how they.
In general, if you have a shower stall and you don't have as much of a lip to get in, it can be a lot easier to access that. It can still be a challenge if there is a little lip. There are shower chairs that they make with backs and sides and rubber feet. I've had people use like wooden chairs and other types of chairs, but you do really want something
Be very slippery.
water tolerant and with good feet. Some of them come with suction feet. If you have a bathtub, you can get what is called a tub transfer bench, and it enables someone to get into a tub without having to step over the side. Now, you cannot have a shower door on that tub for that to work because two of the legs literally sit outside the tub and the other two sit on the inside.
Yeah.
So you sit on the outs of it, kind of like you'd have someone get into the car or into bed, and then they scoot back and swing their legs up and over into the tub. There's typically a bar on the inside of it and a back, which can be helpful. If you have shower doors, though, they're going to have to be taken down and put a curtain up instead.
Hmm.
And some people don't want to change
Yeah.
the bathroom
That's
and
one
change
that's a big
things.
thing, I think, is that one to disrupt the aesthetics of the house or whatever.
And if you're fortunate to have more than one bathroom, maybe mom gets up at night and uses the bathroom real close, but doesn't take her shower there because there's a better situation in another bathroom for taking a shower.
All right, let's move on to the kitchen.
There's so much in the bathroom,
Yeah, well, like I said, there's a lot of complexity to all of this, so we're hitting the highlights of it, but
Generally, I want to see, can someone get a glass and fill it up with water, get to the refrigerator? Where's the location of their table and their counters? If they're using a walker to get around, opening the refrigerator, getting out the milk or whatever, and then being able to carry it to a counter or table while holding a walker with two hands is a challenge. So are you close enough that you can stand in between to pick something up and then move it to another location without having to walk while doing it? So
Would they have some kind of little basket on their walker that carries that they could put stuff in? And,
that is an option, depending on how heavy something is.
yeah.
I've had people move their tables quite often. If you have a counter and a table, close enough to each other that you can transport, you can stand in the middle, pick it up from here and move it over to here. The other big trick is sliding things along a counter. My refrigerator's here, there's a counter, my table's over here. Can slide the item as you walk along the counter to get it where it needs to be. Thinking about, can they reach, can they do this? Can they open their microwave? Can they press the buttons? Can they close it? Can they operate it? Again, you're getting into the cognitive factors of being able to follow through with directions and safety, turning stoves on and off. A lot of times people have stopped using stoves, with being able to heat things in a microwave being a safer method. Again, though, you can't put metal in a microwave and you don't want to run it empty. So there are other safety factors to take into account. Opening the refrigerator, accessing things. Do you have one of those pull-out bottom freezers? You have to bend down to be able to get in there to get things out. Or is your freezer up really high? And like an old-fashioned refrigerator freezer, can you access the things you need
Without them dropping on you or falling?
Without you falling?
Yeah.
Some cabinets, putting things where people can reach them. Mom who's living at home by herself again, she uses, her coffee pot all the time. Is it kept out on the counter or is it put away? Can you bring things down? The plates, the dishes, the common items that are used need to be on a shelf that is at an accessible height for that person. And that can be different for different people. Are they willing to put something out and keep it on the counter and not put it away to make it easier?
There again goes to how much they're stuck on the aesthetics of their house and what it looks like versus how accessible it is.
And it could be a temporary thing. Someone's recovering from a broken hip, but they're healthy enough that they're going to recover fully and then no longer need a walker to get around and will be able to manage things much better. So sometimes you can try, let's just try it like this for a while and see how it works and give it a try. And it's the kind of thing I've done in working in people's homes is we try something out. How did that work? Maybe they don't like the particular equipment. Is there something else we can do? Is there a way we can change it? There's just a lot of
there's a lot
of different factors. The other thing is, where do they sit? Do they sit on the couch typically? Do
I was gonna say, let's go to the living room
and chair? Does where they're sitting have two arms, and are the arms firm and up high enough to be able to assist them? Most people I work with, so anybody in their 60s and up who've had some kind of injury or illness, being able to just stand up without holding on is difficult. So most people are using their arms to get up. So if you're on a couch and you only have an arm on one side, maybe you've had a stroke on that same side. You're not going to be able to get up very effectively from the end of the couch. Is the chair really comfortable and squishy? And so it doesn't have any firm.
So they kind of fall into it.
Is it really deep or low to the ground? There's some easy fixes with something that's low, putting another firm cushion on top of it or raising up the chair from the bottom, from the floor. But picking, where they're going to sit. Is their chair a rocker? Does it rock or spin? That can make it more difficult. Don and I are sitting in
spinning chairs,
spinning office chairs on wheels, a huge safety hazard to be able to get up and down from. Because if I go to get up, this chair is going to move out from underneath me.
Well, unless you would get a chair that lock, that would be helpful, but
helpful.
Still, you got the swivel part, right?
Well, and you still, locks can break and they're not always as firm and secure as two wooden
especially if somebody's heavy. those brakes aren't that effective, I would imagine.
Well, and if you push it, anything that has brakes like that, and you push it with it locked and forget, it's gonna decrease the effectiveness
Well,
of the brakes. So yeah, can you get up and down? Can you safely get to the couch or chair or where you're going to sit on and safely maneuver yourself with the wheelchair, with the walker to get where you want to go? Another common area is maybe people have a patio, a deck, a screened-in porch, somewhere they like to go sit. Can they get to that area? Can they get over the threshold? What kind of barrier are we dealing with? And what can be done to make it easier for them to maneuver?
so any other last thoughts, I guess, because like I said, there's so much complexity to this that we could probably talk. You could probably talk a lot longer on it, Gina. Um,
Thinking ahead of time, knowing what questions to ask can be difficult. So that's where someone who's getting physical occupational therapy services, even speech therapy services, can help facilitate that thought process and thinking through those things. Because you might just not be thinking about all those aspects of things the way I've been doing for 30 years, and it just comes natural to me. Doesn't everybody think about this? Doesn't everybody think about how high their toilet is? Um, knowing what questions to ask, and then keeping that person in mind. Maybe dad, like I've had people sometimes, oh, this was my husband's walker, this was my husband's wheelchair. Well, maybe this is a different size person.
oh yeah, using
So the equipment might not be really the right fit. Some things are adjustable and people didn't even know they were adjustable. There's walkers and rollators and other things that are adjustable. The heights of shower chairs, benches, raised toilet seats, all a lot of them are height adjustable. And so as long as it's not too old and has been rusted where you can't no longer adjust it anymore. So knowing the questions to ask, having someone help you, maybe someone who's recently had a similar experience, bringing their parent home. You can go to support groups. There's lots of support groups out there for people with dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, all different kinds of organizations. Being able to ask questions and just be with somebody in that environment, because if you're dealing with someone, your spouse has been in the hospital and now he's in rehab, and oh my goodness, he's coming home in 3 days and we got to have things ready for him. The sooner you can plan ahead, the better. And getting, accessing the resources that you have. If you have a church or anyone is affiliated, sometimes they have resources that they can, they pass down from one person to another. My parents' 55 plus community, there was a couple that kept equipment in their garage. And that's how my dad got his first wheelchair, is they held on to things and would loan them out to people. If they needed them, they might return it or they might keep it. So finding out what resources there are available, especially someone who can't financially afford to get things. Back in the day, when I first became an OT, to get equipment, you went through a home health equipment company. And $250 tub bench, well, now you can go online and get it through some online services for $100, or it can really be more cost effective. But does the person have access to order online? Do they have the ability to go somewhere and pick something up? I know when you were in the hospital coming home from a heart attack, we got you a shower chair. And I ordered it through Walmart. I had to order it to get it delivered to the store, and I went and picked it up to save on shipping costs rather than, I think, having it shipped. So in having people, friends, family, people you can ask who can help you with accessing those things and navigating this, whether it's with your parent, helping mom help dad, helping, your father who's widowed, whoever it is that you're helping out. It helps to be in communication with other people who can talk about the different encounters that are going to happen and to know what's involved with being able to safely go home. It can be really good to have that outing where you go there for a day and try it out beforehand to see, is this going to be able to work? I often, I ask these questions when I'm first assessing somebody. And sometimes I get the kind of stubborn person who's like, well, I could do it fine when I was at home. It's like, there's nothing magical about going home. And now you're going to be able to get up and down the stairs
You're all
because
better now.
you could do it before.
Yeah.
Just spending 2-3 nights in the hospital, maybe someone comes and gets you up, or you walk to the bathroom, this really short distance, but your body's getting weaker.
Mhm.
And we get over 40, we're losing muscle mass, and we're not exercising, we're not actively moving our bodies. We're getting weaker, and it's affecting our endurance, our balance, our strength, and all these things play a part in how effectively and how safely we get around in our environment.
So, well, Gina, thank you for joining me today, as you always do, but today's special day.
And, if you have other questions, we can have this new series, Ask the OT, and we can set one up via type chat, as well as
Zoom or
bringing it up in a future podcast to discuss these things. So I hope these tips can be helpful. Maybe you know someone who wants their aunt to come visit for the day. Are they going to be able to get in and navigate in your house? What things do they need to be able to do? Or maybe you're looking at, can I bring my grandma home and live with us now? Can my dad go back to his house after he's been in the hospital? Are these things realistic? So please share this information with anybody you know.
And really that's the podcast for today. And I might mention, we played with this interview. Of course, Gina and I work this together. And we're here too as to help and consult with you if you're running into that situation. You can find out more about us by going to our site, Focus Healthy Family. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Am I missing one?
All the places.
All the places that you can find us. We have our Tuesday tips both by email, and you can go to our site there to get hooked up on that. But we also, every Tuesday, we have a short Tuesday tip for parents. And it involves a lot of times tips for young kids as well as the senior population. And of course, our regular podcast on Thursday, which is what you're at right now.
Well, thank you for jumping into my world of occupational therapy for today. Remember, though, when you are thinking about a loved one and them entering your house, their house, wherever, communication is really important. And letting them know your concern for them, and having them maybe even being involved in the process, or possibly sometimes getting it taken care of to avoid confrontation. So remember, how you speak to your children and your parents today shapes their future and yours.